But now let's talk about why using poles that way could actually help you to live longer. Have you got a set of these? Chances are you might. If you've done any hiking, someone's probably told you need to get a set of poles. They'll help you, they'll save your knees, blah, blah, blah. But the fact is, most of you are using these the wrong way and not getting a fraction of the benefits, and that's what we're going to discuss in this video. I'm currently hiking the nearly 100 miles of the West Highland Way in Scotland, and if I'm honest, I had a couple of slightly miserable days to start with, and I've got a long way to go. So today, instead of a standard vlog, I'm making a couple of videos about two of my favourite pieces of kit from this trip: my hiking and running poles and my Durston X Mid 1 tent, which I will discuss in the next video. But this morning I woke up at 5 AM just north of Loch Lomond at Benglass campsite. I'm starting to get a blister, so I'm putting on one of these blister plasters. There's a lot of midges out here this morning. I'm optimistically applying some sun cream. All my kit's packed. There's a lot of midges around. It's gonna have to be a fast take down. Let's go. The midges are absolutely horrendous this morning, and I can't scream because everybody else is still asleep. They're in my ears. Going to be walking about 25 miles today, so I need to leave as early as possible. And in this video, I covered just the first 6 of those miles, so you'll see a lot more of the trail in the next video. But let's talk about what's so amazing about hiking poles and how you can start using them properly today. A lot of people, when they get poles at the start, they get to a hill and they think, great, this is where I'm going to use my poles. So what they do is put them out in front and then use them to kind of press down and lean and help themselves get up the hill. The thing is, that's completely wrong, because when you put the poles in front of you, especially when you're walking, that actually stops you. You're planting that into the ground, so the force from your body is coming down in front of you, down into the ground like that, which actually breaks. It's really inefficient. It means every time you plant, there's a bit of a break, and then you have to overcome it, and then when you get to here, then you're pushing again. The proper way to use poles is what's known as Nordic walking, and that comes from I'm getting eaten alive. That comes from Scandinavian regions, and it was developed by skiers who wanted a way to train in the summer. And what you do is you put your poles into the ground at a 45-degree angle behind you and push, so you're always pushing. You're never just leaning on the poles. Stick in at a 45-degree angle and actively push as you walk. This engages your wrist, your arm, your shoulder, your chest, your entire upper body. When you do that, hang on, let me demonstrate. Uphill, push, 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 push. That is a completely different, faster and easier experience than. Something else that's really important is how you use this, the strap. The mistake a lot of people make is that they just put their hand through like this and hold the pole like that, and the strap doesn't really do anything. It's just kind of there. Maybe if you lean down really hard, you might end up leaning on it, and if you do put pressure on it, this kind of happens. Your wrist can bend down the way, or it's just used as a thing to dangle. What you want to do is not put your hand through that way, but bring it on underneath, bring it up, and then when you wrap that around and grip, that's wrapped right around my hand. So this locks you onto the pole. If you look, if I push down with my wrist now, and my wrist isn't bending the same way, I'm a lot more locked into the pole, and this gives me a lot more power and control when I push down into the ground, because the force isn't just being transferred through the fingers that are wrapped around the pole, it's been transferred through my entire hand and even down into my wrist and my forearm, giving you a lot more control. Probably one of the biggest benefits from learning the Nordic walking technique is that if you're one of those pillocks that likes to go onto outdoors Facebook groups and tell people they're doing things wrong, well, now you can do it as you pass them on the trail. Nordic walkers are the specialty coffee snobs of the walking pole community. My experience has been, when I switched to using poles in that Nordic fashion, I am able to hike further, for longer and faster. Over the last 3 days, I've walked over about 55 miles at this point. You know, I feel a certain level of pain, I feel a certain level of fatigue in my legs. But when I use the poles to push down behind me, even when I'm not walking that fast, immediately my legs don't feel as painful because my shoulders, my upper body is pushing down, lifting some of that pressure off my leg, and they feel a lot better. It feels completely different. If you've never tried it before, go out and try it. It will blow your mind just how easier it is and how much more speed and power and ease you have when you use them in the proper Nordic fashion. But let's talk about why using poles that way could actually help you to live longer. Hi, sheep! Part of the reason for that is when you use poles, you engage double the number of muscles that you normally use when you're just walking. So it is an entire body exercise, full body exercise. So it conditions you from head to toe. It's better for your back, it's better for your posture. You burn more calories for the same time out when you use poles. You also burn more body fat when you hike with poles and use the Nordic walking fashion. But the other factor is studies have shown that, especially as you get older, there is an increased mortality risk with lower muscle mass. So as you get older, your muscles kind of sort of atrophy a bit and wear away, and that can increase the risk of death, basically. Because it conditions the entire body, really hardcore Nordic walkers are absolutely ripped. I'm still waiting for those effects to kick in. If you start using these, they literally could extend your lifespan a little bit, and they're also shown to be good for your heart health. Flat ground. When you get the flat ground and you're using the poles the way a lot of people use them, this weird, it does absolutely nothing. Like, all you're doing is actually increasing your fatigue levels. Think about it. If you're on a flat, you're lifting the poles up in front of you, okay? So you're lifting the weight of the poles, and then you're dropping them, but you're not pushing yourself up, you're just sort of stepping through them. So you're just lifting the weight of the poles and getting zero benefit from it whatsoever. Whereas on a flat, if you use the Nordic style and put them out behind you, because they're digging them in behind you, sorry, a fly just went in my eyeball. You can still propel yourself along. And it even works on like a very slight downhill. When it comes to a downhill section, you have a couple of options. You can just drop them in front of you, and that will take some of the pressure off your knees, which will protect your knees. Or if it's really gentle incline, sometimes what I'll do is I'll just take them off and I'll just hold them for that bit, or I'll hold them while I run. Unless it's a really technical downhill, and that is where these really come into their own once again, because yesterday there were loads of sections where there were descents down like staircases of stone. And because I've been using these so much, I've got to the point now where they're almost like an extra set of legs. It's like I've got four legs. Have you ever had that weird dream where you dream you're running and you're running faster and faster and faster, and then you like tip onto your hands and you start running, you're running forward? No, that's just me. But yeah, when you get used to these, it is like you have 4 legs, and you can hit technical sections really, really quickly. The poles, you put them out in front of you, you're doing things like this and that, and it is just like an extension of your body. So rather than coming up and sort of stopping and looking and putting the pole down and stepping, you know, like that, once you get really used with the poles, you just kind of probing, looking, stepping, okay, down there, without stopping. You get into a real rhythm, but to do that, you have to use them a lot. I must have picked one of the least scenic parts of the West Highland Way to shoot this bit. Yes, because bubble wrap is really good at preventing head injuries. And they're not only good for hiking, you can also use them for running as well. When you get up a bit of speed, you can start propelling yourself along and run, and I find that's particularly useful when you're carrying a lot of weight in your back. If you're buying a set of poles, there's pretty much 2 types of material you can get. You can either get ones made from carbon fiber, which these ones are, these Harrier poles. These are the lightest in weight, but they're slightly vulnerable in that they can be brittle. So if you stick it in like between a couple of rocks and catch it, they can snap. You can also get aluminium ones, which are much stronger, but they're also heavier. I prefer the carbon fiber ones, and I'm just really careful with them. I can go faster, further, with less injury. I burn more calories, I burn more fat. It's better for my health, it's better for my posture, my back. I tend to get sore backs when I do long distance hiking. I haven't since I've been using this techniques. But the final benefit I didn't talk about is that when you're out on having a lonely day and you're a little bit bored and your mind is starting to wander and your imagination is running, your pole can become an imaginary lightsaber. Oh no! A wild haggis! Come at me, midgies! Oh. Which works particularly well on the midgies.